All right, today I'm going to do a pumpkin carriage. It's out of maple, mahogany, and then the little hubs there are walnut. But I'm going to use a tool to hollow this out. Paul Crabtree from the Hollowing King, he was doing a demonstration in Tigard at the Woodcraft, and he stopped by and gave me a one-on-one on how the tool works. And there it is. And it's pretty slick. He kind of showed me, kind of got me started on everything. So he's coming back down at the end of the month and gonna come back over and make sure I'm doing everything right. But it's pretty slick. The little spring, it's just a spring, so it rides on the outside of the piece, and then when it gets to the right wall thickness, the spring just stands right up, and you know you're there. It's just pretty simple to use, but I'll show you how it works, and we'll get started. All right, this is just a green piece of maple. I have it in between centers, and I'm using a roughing gouge to true it up. I'm going to switch to the bowl gouge to give it its shape. I'm just cleaning up the end of it, and then I'm letting the inside bevel ride around the corner there. And then I'm going to put a tenon down on the end so I can grab it with my 4-jaw chuck and hollow it out. Okay, what I did was just put a depth hole down it. I drilled down through the center of it, and I flipped the little gauge bar up out of the way. You can actually just take the bar out or adjust it just up like that, so it's not in your way when you're first start out, because it'll just flop on the side, and you don't even need it until you get close. And the cutter head too, it's got a little set bolt on it. So you can adjust it for when you come across the bottom. You can make it flatter and then roll it around as you come up the lip. You want to have an air compressor handy, because once you get down in there, the material builds up really fast, and you need to blow it out, because you can feel it where it's not cutting. It builds up so fast. It actually cleans it out really fast. So, and then you just adjust the cutter head as you come around the corner there. You can kind of see how I have it to go down in right there, and then I'll adjust that as I come around the corner. Okay, I dropped the arm down, and you can see where it just barely rides along there now, and then as the wall thickness gets thinner, it will pop up. So you can kind of see where it starts to vibrate just a little bit when it gets really close. So I think you can see that a little bit to where it's just right there. So I was being careful, and I probably left it a little thicker than it needed to be, but this is only my second try with it, so I didn't want to get too close. But it works really well. I'll finish this up, and then we will work on the lid. All right, so I have it all hollowed out, and I'm just going to let it dry, and I'm going to make the lid, and I'm going to do the stem separately. I'm going to off-center that, and I'm just using a little piece of the limb out of the same tree, and it's going to warp a little bit, but it's not a box, so I'm not trying to get it to fit super tight or anything. And then I'll make the stem for it. All right, and I'm just gonna get it close, and it's not gonna fit in here, super tight, but just want it close. and I want to put a different stem on it, so I'm just going to cut that off. Basically what we're going to have is that right there, but with a little bit of an angle here. Drill down into that. All right, what I did is I just took a piece of mahogany and turned a little tenon down on it that'll mount inside the lid, and then I'm going to cut it out with the bandsaw. Off-centered, I couldn't get it to arc that much to make it look like a pumpkin stem, so I'm just going to cut it out by hand on the bandsaw and then just hand sand it. But that's all I did, was turn the tenon so it was all straight and everything, and then I'll hand do it. But that was it. All right, so I'm going to make a chassis for the carriage, and I just drilled a hole in there. I'm going to actually make that a little bit bigger and taper it a little bit, but this will sit in there. The carriage will sit in there like that, and then I'm going to trace out and come out here for the wheels and put little axles out on it. So I'm just going to trace that out and cut it out on the bandsaw and then sand that. But that's basically just going to sit in the middle there, and we'll get it all together. And I went ahead and still working on here's the stem, and I didn't sand it or anything yet, or I didn't finish sanding it. It's just kind of rough, but it will pop right in there like that. There we go. On the pumpkin. Okay, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but so I have a little arc here. I'm going to cut this out, cut each of this little spaces out here, and what we're going to be left with is the wheels are going to mount right there. So this will be the little axles here, and then I'll make that just a little bit bigger in the center, and I'll just use my oscillating sander to do that. I'm sorry if you can't see it very well. So I'm just going to cut it out on the bandsaw and open up this hole a little bit, and then I'll come back. All right, so I just rough sanded it out, and I'll finish hand sanding it, and then the pumpkin will sit on there just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and make the wheels now. All right, I just made 4 little discs out of the same limb, and they're wet, they're green wood, and they're going to warp a little bit, but I think it'll just add to the nice little rustic look to it. But I just turned a little peg there. I'm just going to put them on and then bring the thickness down, so that when they do, so they won't, hopefully they won't split, they'll just warp a little bit. So I'm going to bring them down pretty thin. There we go, and then I can spin it around and do the other side. Try not to break it. Then I'll just finish the rest of them here real quick. All right, there we go. So I have them all turned here, and I'm going to use, I have this walnut dowel, and I'm going to make the little axles out of it and put a little button on it, and so it covers that up, and then mount those to the chassis. But I still need to hand sand the chassis, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and make the little axle. Alright, so the carriage and the lid are dry, and I'm going to go ahead and sand those, and I'm just going to sand it with walnut oil and see how that goes. See if it really yeah, it's really going to darken that wood up a lot. And I'm just going to run through all the grits, and then we'll put a beeswax finish over it. Alright, I'm just finishing up with 600, and I never realized how hard it was to sand with one hand. Keep dropping the sandpaper, trying to keep my stump out of the oil. Alright, then we'll get a nice coat of beeswax on it. Yeah, that's just gorgeous. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just use the hard beeswax and hold it on there and let it melt in, and then buff it off. Just gonna get some wax in here. Just let it melt in. Alright, we'll just buff it off with a clean paper towel. Turn the speed up. Alright, and there we go. And I'll put a couple more coats on it and let this one set up for a little while, and I'll put another coat on it. Alright, I just took it over the drill press and took a Forstner bit and popped that hole through there. And for my second attempt with the tool, I'm pretty happy. It's pretty even. Thanks for coming down and showing me how to use it, Paul. I'm going to take this and I'm going to oval it out a little bit. I want to kind of make it look a little more like a door than a birdhouse. So I'm going to try and oval it out a little bit, and then we'll cut the base off there. All right, I went ahead and ovaled it out, and I just had a dowel and I wrapped a piece of sandpaper around it, and so it looks a little more like a door. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put some more wax on this, another coat on it to shine it back up, and then all I have left is I got the axles. I just took that little dowel, rounded over the tips of them there, and stuck them in there, and I'm going to go ahead and mount these on here and finish sanding them once they dry, and then we'll mount them on the chassis. All right, I have the wheels all done. I sanded them up, little hub in there, and I'm just going to glue them on to the chassis. I didn't oil the whole thing. I just kind of wanted to see what the color was going to look like before I started. But I need to glue these on, and then I'll oil the whole thing. And the body here, it wasn't quite dry. It keeps soaking up the oil, so I'm going to work on that a little bit more and let it dry for another day or so before I put the final coat on, because it's really soaking the oil in and drying out a little bit. But let's go ahead and put the wheels on. I'm just going to put a little dab of glue on there. They don't need to turn. And I put a little mark on them and numbered them all, because I kind of drilled them out specifically for each one, so that they fit in there straight. All right, so I will just let that dry overnight, and then hopefully that'll be dry. It was really close, but it's got a little bit of moisture left in it, so it's soaking up the oil. So let that dry, and I'll finish that, and we'll put it all together. All right, there we go. I'll put some pictures up at the end of it, but again, it's out of maple, mahogany, and walnut. And special thanks again too for Paul stopping by and give me a one-on-one on how the tool works. I'll put a link to his website down below, and it's a slick little tool. I've used it on a couple things. I made a base and then this, so I hope I'm getting the hang of it. But thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.